Welcome back to another edition of Radical Music Reviews. It's been a long time since I've done a video, and today's going to be different because I'm not going to be reviewing a record or CD or band or artist. I'm actually going to be talking about a movie I saw last night called Skinamarink. And I'm no expert in cinema, but I would say that I'm well versed in a lot of the classic movies of the past, I don't know, 50 years. Um, Going back to things like the great legendary Swedish director Ingmar Bergman, and the things that he did with my favorite actor of all time, Max von Sydow. You might know Sydow from The Exorcist. He was the actual old man who played the Exorcist in the movie. Um, right through to Coppola and Spielberg and all the directors, and more recently, my favorite one in today is Michael Mann. You may remember he did Heat and Collateral, and he's got a really great way of portraying gritty street films, gang films. But the one genre of film that I've always enjoyed more than any is the genre of horror. Scary films have always just got my adrenaline going, and I love the excitement and the fear that it brings. My favorite show in the horror genre would be The Exorcist. I think The Exorcist still holds up as one of the great horror films of all time, and it was a tragedy that it didn't win the Academy Award for Best Picture. There's things that in The Exorcist that Billy Friedkin did that you couldn't do today. You'd probably get sued if he did the things to actors today he did back then. And I held that view until last night when I saw Skinamarink. And I think that Skinamarink will go down as one of the greatest horror films ever made. And I don't say that lightly because it's been many, many years since a horror film has come out that has impacted me the way that the movie did. I went with some family members and who don't like horror films, but we went out for dinner and we went to the movie, and we were front row center for this film. And I think they mostly saw it through their fingers or through closed eyes. But even the sound of the film, you just couldn't escape. Skinamarink is a new film by an independent Canadian director named Kyle Edward Ball. And I looked up on IMDb what he has done, and it didn't appear that he's done much before this film. But if this is the last film that Ball ever makes, I think he would go down as one of the great directors in the horror genre. And the reason I say that is because this movie blends a lot of different facets of horror films of the past and puts a very fresh spin on new ideas and a new way to make the film. The film is set, it says, in 1995, although I'm 50 and I have a feel of this house that it was set in from the 70s. There may be some spoiler alerts here, so if you don't want to hear too much about the film, I'll try not to say too much about the film in terms of what happens, but essentially it's about two kids who are in a house, and their parents, their mother and father, they just disappear in general. Sometimes they're there, but they aren't really there. Things in the house change, the doors and windows disappear. Things in the house aren't the way it should appear. Things are upside down, things are inverted, things are on the ceiling. And it really is shot in a way that you would think a bad dream or a nightmare would be shot. It really is shot like a nightmare sequence. Some things that Ball does in this film is that he uses 8mm film, which really gives it a grainy look and a staticky sound. Now, at first I thought that might get annoying as the film goes on, but it really just added to the creepiness and the mystique of the film. As the film progresses, you're plunged further and further into a creepy, scary realm of just, it's terrifying in the way that it's shot. Things that scare most people, things like the dark, fear of being alone, abandonment, um, uh, being trapped. Essentially, these two kids are trapped in a house and they're trying to find a way out. They're trying to get help. They're trying to find their parents. And what Skinamarink does is very effective. It brings all those elements together that, in general, scare a lot of people. And on top of that, it's shot in a way that adds to the fear of the film. I've never encountered anything like it. I think if I was going to uh, tell you about, what it's a mix of, I mean, if you think Paranormal Activity, where the camera in black and white is being shot in the bedroom, watching this couple while they sleep, with Poltergeist, of all these things happening. I mean, that's an understatement to really categorize this film like that. But it does blend things that really scare you, terrify you, and I really can't say enough about the film. As it progresses, you get plunged deeper and deeper into more bizarre and strange and scary things. And the movie's only about an hour and 40 minutes. It's a shorter film, but after about a half hour, 40 minutes into it, you're thinking to yourself, God, this has got to end soon. I don't know how much more of this I can take. Now, are there jump scares? Yeah, there's jump scares in the film. And I think in most horror films, there has to be some kind of jump scare. Even in the classics, there's jump scares. And that's not taken away from the film. If that's all the film was, then I wouldn't rate it so highly. But it is shot in a way, and Ball uses the lighting and the camera in a way that just really adds to this movie. I think it only cost about $15,000 to make, if I read that correctly. It's going to make a heck of a lot more money than 15 grand. So, kudos to this fantastic Canadian director. I'm from Canada. I'm very proud of this director and what he's done in this film. I really hope we don't get a Skinamarink 2 or 3 or 4. I hope that nobody takes the ideas from this film and runs with it, because I really don't think that you can make a film in this way to be as effective as this was. What Ball has done with, even in the credits, the opening credits are harken back to the 1970s. And I think this is why, when these kids are about 4 or 5 years old in this film, I was that age in 1976. And the cartoons that are playing were some of the cartoons that were on when I was a kid. And so I had this, connection with the house and these creepy cartoons that were playing on the television, and some of the wood paneled walls that the house had, and it's all done to great effect. I don't think you're going to find a film that is going to terrify you more than this. It does plunge into a world of just horrifying imagery and sound and cinematography. I really can't say enough about how all these different facets of film were used, and I think you'll really enjoy it. Going back to some of the classic horror films, you can see some of the ideas of previous horror films over the last 40 or 50 years, and that's fine. I think that what Kyle Ball has done here is has taken those ideas and blended it into this nightmare sequence that you just can't escape. The only way you can escape this is to walk out of the theater. That's it. I just couldn't. I had to finish it, because there's just so much to this film that scares you. I'm glad I finished it. I was in the theater. For me, who's a devotee of horror films, this really captured the essence of what being scared was. and I think it's going to be a huge success. I'd be surprised if it isn't. So yeah, see it in the big screen. I mean, if you're a fan of horror films, you should see it in the big screen. If you kind of like scary films, this is going to scare the pants right off you. I think. I have read some reviews of it that some people find it too slow, that there's not enough in the film to gel it together. I take issue with that. I think that what Ball has done is build up an intensity to a point and then drop it down, and build up the intensity to a point and then drop it down. And you get comfortable with this scared intensity until you get to a point and you think it's going to come down, and then boom, it doesn't. It just hits you. Yeah, it's something else, man. You got to see this film. So anyway, just wanted to shout out to the director in this film, fellow Canadian, fantastic job. If he happens to watch this, I just want to personally thank him. And for anybody else who's into horror films or really wants to see a scary, creepy nightmare film, this is for you. Absolutely. Would I rate this higher on a scale than The Exorcist? I would probably say that in terms of how this film impacted me, it would be on par with The Exorcist, for sure. Personally, it's just my opinion, but they are very, very different films. They're shot differently. The story is different. This film has no cast of characters. It has very little dialogue. It's mostly cinematography, lights, sounds, whispering, strange noises. And it's enough to just, like I said, terrify the pants off you, So check it out. Fantastic film. So anyway, I plan to do some more films on music, music equipment, stereo equipment. That'll all be coming up at some point in time. So stick around and see Skinamarink. It'll knock your socks off. Cheers.